So some people have already done that. Let's see what we've got. Writing down things I'm grateful for, spending time in my garden, yes. Actively listening during a conversation, and observing myself, observing my thoughts and my senses. Okay, right, well, thank you for sharing that. It's really interesting to hear how you're already doing this. So I'm doing this live stream a few days before Christmas. And I mean, personally, I grew up Jewish and I'm a Buddhist, but I'm still doing Christmas. You can't get away from it. Everywhere is Christmas. And in my house is Christmas. We're gearing up. There are decorations, we've made food, the house is jammed with food. And various people are coming around, although it's a bit limited this year, as last year, because of coronavirus. After that blowout, what's on my agenda? Well, I was going to be going on a retreat. But it's been cancelled because of COVID. So, c'est la vie. So I have all these mixed feelings as Christmas is starting up. I, over the last 6 months, have been really trying to lose some weight, and I don't want to put it back on. And Christmas is not a very good time for that. I mean, am I going to be scrutinizing myself every step? And will I end up, after all of this, in that kind of post-Christmas funk of, bleary-eyed, bloated fullness? And that's the challenge. You can probably relate to it. There's the relaxing, there's the fun, there's the family part, but there's a bit too much of everything. That seems to be how Christmas goes in our culture. Too much consuming, drinking, television, all of that sort of thing. And families can be wonderful and it can be difficult. And it might be that all of those things I've been talking about aren't you. It might be that, your life isn't like that. You're left out, perhaps because of COVID, perhaps because you live on your own, perhaps for all sorts of reasons. Maybe you've just decided to opt out. But given that you can't really get away from Christmas, let's think about the challenge of having a more mindful Christmas. One of the challenging parts is that it's shared with others. So your time isn't really your own. But actually, more broadly, we have the same issue through the whole year. Yes, there are all of these things going on. They're a little bit accentuated at Christmas. But the question is, how can I make this real in my life? Now, the first thing is keeping up meditation practice. So that's my Christmas resolution, to meditate each day. But at Christmas and at the rest of the year, that isn't enough. The meditation needs to be woven into the whole of our lives. And that's what we call mindfulness. And people get a bit mixed up between mindfulness and meditation. So my definition is that meditation is a practice. We're going to do some in a minute. It's a practice you do for a certain length of time. But mindfulness is a faculty, like seeing or smelling. It's the capacity to be aware at any time, under any circumstances. And in order to be mindful, we can't just go with the flow. For example, the flow of Christmas. We have to take some agency. We have to recognize, become aware of how what's going on around us is affecting us. And so we're going to be exploring that a little bit through the meditation today. In today's meditation, we're going to be really focusing on the senses in order to make the connection between a more meditative frame of mind and something we can bring into the whole of life. Before that, I have a little practice that I'm offering as a tip. And there's an acronym for this, which is STOP, S-T-O-P. Okay, so stop, the S is stop, the T is take a breath, the O is observe, and the P is proceed. Okay, so let's just do that. Stop. Take a breath. Observe, maybe observe what's going on internally, what's going on externally, and then proceed. Okay, so what did you notice? That's always the question with mindfulness. What did I notice? And whatever we notice is the right answer. It's not about doing things in a certain way, okay? So stop is something that you can integrate into your life. Just keep doing that through the day. Stop, take a breath, observe, proceed. Let's do some meditation. So, as I said, this practice is going to be using the senses, but we'll settle in a kind of normal way, a standard way that we do with meditation. And actually, if you think about the acronym STOP, the first bit, stop, is what we do in order to settle. So when we sit and we establish a posture, we stop moving around, we stop being active in any other way. And we can take a breath. And I think it's often helpful to take a breath more intentionally, a deeper breath. So breathing in. Breathing out. Always feels good, taking a breath in touch with ourselves. How am I? Just checking in. What's going on? What's going on, Vishvapani? How are you doing? And it really doesn't matter what the answer is. Oh, I'm terrible. Oh, I'm great. It's just whatever is happening right now. If I'm terrible, it's best to know about it. So this is observing. Now, as we're not doing just a mindful moment, we're doing a full practice, we're going to proceed with the meditation. So we'll start by taking our attention to the tactile sense, the feeling, touch sense, sometimes called the kinesthetic sense. And what do we touch? Well, my body is touching the floor at my knees, along my legs, at my feet. If you're sitting up, it won't be the knees, it'll be the feet resting on the floor. So sensing the contact between the feet and the floor. Just feeling that. Also, I can feel my bottom and my thighs are resting on my support. So this is a meditation stool that I'm sitting on. You might be sitting on a chair, in which case we just feel that support, and it's sensing, not thinking about the bottom. Okay? So my hands. The hands are resting on the legs or in the lap. I'm touching and I'm sensing something with my hands. So what am I sensing? I'm sensing the contact of my hands with my legs. So again, let's play with sensing that rather than thinking about it or visualizing it. It's really simple. It just means, what do I feel at the pads of my fingers, the palms of my hands, the ball, the heel there? What do I feel? So I'm feeling the contact with the clothing, and then also my legs are feeling the weight of my hands resting on them. So then there are slightly subtler sensations in the body itself. Just the feeling of the body. And this is the whole body. There's the contact of the body with the clothing. There's the movement of the body with the breath. So I've just placed my hand on my tummy. You could do that if you like. And what we notice is how the tummy is moving. And that's a sense of touch, or more precisely, the kinesthetic sense. The sense of the body, the physical body with all of its nerve endings, resting, but also moving with the breath. And what else do we notice in the body, bringing our sense of touch? There's a connected sense, which is detecting warmth and cool, but we can include that. So perhaps cool on the areas of skin that aren't covered by clothing. My face, hands, all of that. What do you notice? Just tuning in to that sense of heat or cool. So that's just one sense. Having closed our eyes, we've very much reduced the input from the seeing sense, the visual sense. Now, I invite you to open your eyes, if that's okay for you. So just gently open them and not looking all around the room. So not going into that very external mode where we're sort of exploring in the room. Just keeping our gaze exactly as it is and taking in what we see. So I'm seeing a carpet. I can just say that, and that's the label, carpet. But there's another way to explore this beyond the label. Let's just put all the labels aside, the labels that say table, chairs, carpet, walls, all of that. Let's just take our attention to the visual sense. Now, there are colours. There are reds and shades of red. There are browns and yellows, black and white and silver on the whole grey scale. I'm not seeing anything that's green. There's a plant next to me, and just out of the periphery of my vision, I'm picking up some green, some greenness. I'm seeing shapes. So noticing any regular shapes, like lines or curves or patterns. And the relation of those lines, things that are symmetrical, and also things that are not regular shapes, irregular, more amorphous or organic. So holding the colours and the shapes together in our field of awareness. And just noticing light and dark, shade, colours and shapes. So let's close our eyes again, and we'll go to our hearing sense. Just hearing sounds. Again, there are two things here. One is the label. So perhaps a car goes by and we label car. But the other thing is the quality of sound. Just what I'm hearing, what a microphone would pick up. A microphone doesn't know anything about cars, but it will pick up a certain sound. So, listening out. Our ears like microphones now. The sounds that have been coming to us, which we haven't been noticing, probably. And some are louder, some are quieter, some are continuous, and some are intermittent, they come and go. Some are higher pitched or lower pitched. So hearing all of these sounds, layers, textures, and they're changing. One thing changing into another. Layers and textures of changing sound. A soundscape. So a little bit more briefly now, we'll take our awareness to the sense of smell, or scent. This may well be less noticeable, unless you're very attuned to sense. It's less to notice, but there's still something, even if it's a certain kind of neutral scent. In the room where I'm sitting, I light incense when I meditate. There's just the faint residue of that incense in the air. Perhaps you can notice something like that. Let's move on now to taste. Now, we're not stimulating the taste sense by eating something, but just let that be present. It's another way that we take in information. And in Buddhism, the last of the senses is thinking. In Buddhist psychology, maybe just notice the thinking activity going on in the mind. Then just relaxing that focus and letting all of the senses be present. So maybe keeping the eyes closed, but there's still some visual input. There's the sounds, the tactile sense, and the sense of smell and taste. Can we hold all of that together? If we open our eyes gently, taking in the visual input, can we hold that as well? Not picking and choosing, just alive to the senses. Okay, so we'll let go of that. It's a very particular sort of effort that we're making with that practice. Let's start to make a transition. Just taking our time. A little bit of movement is always good to make a transition. That was a slightly longer practice than we usually do in these basic sessions. So just moving, maybe little discomforts come in. And when you're ready, really coming back into the space and just bring the practice to a close. Okay. So how did you find that? What did you notice? So there's a question here. What if cycling through the senses feels busy and noticing my breath, random thoughts and silence feels like enough? Is it okay to dip in and out of the guided portion of this meditation? Yes, of course. Yes. What that is doing is exploring. Actually, there's quite a lot of input from the senses, which is probably what you noticed. And yes, so it can be difficult to keep static and keep still, keep calm, and also be taking all of that in. But it's really just about exploring. How far can we go before we lose it, we sort of feel a bit overwhelmed? But also, isn't it interesting that we are overwhelmed even when we're doing so little? Okay, so next question. Of the senses, observing sounds and thoughts felt the most natural. That's interesting. I plan to take this piece of practice off the cushion. Any other pieces that might be good? Well, it's very interesting that you notice sounds and thoughts. For most people, I think the visual sense is generally said anyway by psychologists and people like that to be the strongest one. But everyone's different. Maybe you're a more auditory type of person. So, yeah, good to know that about ourselves. That sometimes said that the three main types are visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. If you know what type you are, then that shows you what's predominant and what's most vivid for you. So that can be a good way to work if you want to stay in touch with awareness, you want to access awareness. Okay, well, thank you for those points, those questions. Right, let's come back to stop, because this is a key to taking mindfulness into the whole of our lives. Remember the acronym. First of all, stop. Take a breath. Observe. Proceed. Okay, so the stopping bit is, in a way, it's the key. It's sort of enough. Just get yourself to stop. Remember to stop. Taking a breath is a way of making a transition. But the observing and the proceeding are really the observing particularly, really where we're learning something new. So it's a technique, but it's not just a technique. It's a key to awareness. And observing means noticing our surroundings, our situation. You know, let's say you're at work and there's all sorts of things going on. And then what's happening internally with the body, the thoughts, and the feelings. Okay? And proceeding doesn't mean just carrying on as before. It means making a choice. Awareness brings choice, generally speaking, because now we have more information. And that opens up possibilities. What's happening? What do I need? What do others need? So, I'm going to finish with some words of the Buddha, which conjure up an image of what it means to live really mindfully. The world will not be perfect. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha says this: happy indeed we live, friendly amid the haters. Among those who hate, we dwell free from hate. Happy indeed we live, content amid the greedy. Among those who are greedy, we dwell free from greed. Happy indeed we live, we for whom there are no possessions, or maybe few possessions. Feeders on rapture shall we be, like the gods of brilliant light. Victory begets hatred, for the defeated one experiences suffering. The tranquil one experiences happiness, giving up both victory and defeat. Okay, thank you for sharing this time. Please continue to share your meditation practice with us. You can check out our daily live meditations at round.glass or on our app. Have a great day, and in the midst of everything, stay in touch with our broader awareness.